2 decades before the War of the Five Kings, Lyanna Stark, daughter of the Lord of Winterfell and the betrothed of the Lord of the Stormlands, disappeared, supposedly kidnapped by Rhaegar Targaryen, heir to the Mad King Aerys II. Tensions rose throughout the Seven Kingdoms, and in 282 AC, after the king tortured and murdered Lord Rickard Stark and his heir Brandon, war erupted with houses Baratheon, Stark, Arryn, and later Tully raising their banners in rebellion. The war led to the death of thousands, culminating in the Battle of the Trident in 283 AC, where Robert Baratheon killed Rhaegar Targaryen and the rebel army defeated loyalist forces. With the war all but over, Lord Eddard Stark led a small party to Dorne, searching for the Tower of Joy, where he hoped to find his sister Lyanna. After engaging in battle with 3 Kingsguard, all were dead save Eddard and his companion Howland Reed, and so Ned ran up the steps to find his sister Lyanna dying in a pool of blood. Although she was very weak, she spoke some final words, asking him to make a promise before passing away. Sometime later, Ned returned north with the body of Lyanna, accompanied by Howland Reed and a baby boy named Jon Snow, who he claimed was his bastard son, while refusing to speak further on the issue. Some came to believe Jon's mother was a Dornish wet nurse named Willa, while others thought the mother was perhaps Ashara Dane, who Ned was rumored to have been involved with in his youth. There are those, however, who claim the truth is more complex than previously imagined. Although all of Westeros believes Jon Snow to be the illegitimate son of Eddard Stark, it is possible the Lord of Winterfell may have misled everyone about the boy's parentage, in order to respect the promise he made to his sister Lyanna on her deathbed. The theory states that the boy was fathered by Rhaegar, and Lyanna, knowing that Robert might have killed the child for his Targaryen blood, asked Ned never to reveal the child's true origins. This would mean that Jon Snow is really the child of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen, who may also have been married beforehand, creating an argument that Jon may have a stronger claim to the Iron Throne than even Daenerys Targaryen, who would be his aunt, a younger sister of his father Rhaegar. Despite the many questions surrounding his birth, Jon Snow was raised as a son of Ned Stark, brought up in Winterfell alongside his true-born siblings, tutored by a maester and trained to fight by the Master-at-Arms, becoming an expert swordsman. Jon grew to be a kind and graceful young man with a lean body and long face, as well as dark brown hair and gray eyes, inheriting many Stark characteristics. He was also observant, quiet, and reserved, always feeling like an outsider because of his illegitimate status. Although he was close to his half-brother and best friend Robb, as well as his younger half-sister Arya, he had no inheritance rights and no real prospects. In addition, his stepmother Catelyn Stark despised the boy, seeing him as a constant reminder of her husband's infidelity. So, as Jon grew into a young man, he resolved to go north and join the Night's Watch, where the manner of his birth would be of no consequence. It may be possible that Eddard Stark had a plan for the boy, which involved resettling long-abandoned fortresses in the New Gift, where Jon could go and rule as a lord of his own holdfast. But the end of a long summer and the harsh winter approaching laid waste to his plans. At the age of 14, while accompanying his father and brothers, the Starks encountered a litter of 5 direwolf pups, which Jon pointed out may have been meant for their family, as Eddard Stark had 5 legitimate children. Lord Stark agreed, but when they discovered a 6th albino direwolf, it was given to Jon before returning to Winterfell. Jon grew close to the animal, naming him Ghost, and over time creating a deep connection that awakened an ability to ward. And through this mysterious power, he was able to see through the eyes of his direwolf while he slept. When King Robert Baratheon traveled north to visit his old friend Ned Stark in Winterfell, following the death of the Hand of the King Jon Arryn, a great feast was held in his honor. Attending the event was Eddard's younger brother Benjen Stark, a well-known ranger of the Night's Watch. Jon spoke to his uncle about joining the Brotherhood, and Benjen agreed to help, speaking to Maester Luwin, who then spoke to Eddard Stark, convincing him the Night's Watch was a reasonable option, given that Lord Stark would soon be traveling south to serve as the new Hand of the King, and therefore could not protect the boy from Catelyn, who would banish him from the fortress. And so it was decided Jon would travel north with his uncle to the Wall. During the king's visit to Winterfell, Jon's half-brother Bran fell from a tower, nearly dying, and had not regained consciousness by the time of everyone's departure. And so Jon could not say a proper goodbye, instead merely visiting him one last time before leaving. He then said goodbye to Robb and gifted a finely crafted lightweight sword to his half-sister Arya, who named it Needle. After saying a final farewell to his father, Jon Snow traveled north alongside his direwolf, uncle, and a party of recruits. Also joining them was Tyrion Lannister, the younger brother of the Queen, who wanted to see the legendary Northern Wall with his own eyes before returning south. As a dwarf, Tyrion was often the target of ridicule, but he in fact was brilliant and read many books to train his mind so it might compensate for his physical limitations. Jon and Tyrion developed a friendship. However, it was through their conversations that Jon learned a harsh truth about the Night's Watch, which combined with the sorry state of the recruits, led the boy to grow disillusioned. Jon had believed the Ancient Order to be a place of honorable warriors who guarded the realm from White Walkers and wildlings. But the Night's Watch of his time was a den of misfits and criminals, most joining to avoid a death sentence. Nevertheless, Jon did his duty, at first having difficulty fitting in with his peers, but eventually helping to train his fellow recruits, gaining their respect and friendship. He became closest to Samwell Tarly, an overweight young man of great intelligence but no skills as a warrior. To ensure Sam did not die in training, Jon spoke to Maester Aemon of Castle Black, convincing him to name Samwell his steward, where his intelligence might be put to proper use. As a result, Sam was accepted into the Watch, and said his vows alongside Jon Snow at the weirwood tree beyond the wall. For a time, Jon was upset that he too had been named a steward, serving directly under Lord Commander Jeor Mormont, believing that he should be a ranger like his uncle. But Sam soon explained to him that Jeor likely wanted him close to groom him for a position of leadership. After Ghost discovered the body of 2 rangers beyond the wall, they were brought into Castle Black, where Jon learned that the king had died and his father Eddard Stark was arrested. When he overheard Sir Alliser Thorne mocking Lord Stark, Jon lost control and attacked him with a dagger. Fortunately, the fight was broken up before anyone was injured, so he avoided serious consequence. That night, the bodies they recovered rose from the dead, killing several of the brothers and attacking Lord Commander Mormont, who survived thanks to Jon Snow and his direwolf. To thank Jon for his actions, Jeor Mormont gifted him the Valyrian steel sword Longclaw, which had been in his family for centuries. When Jon learned of his father's execution, he considered abandoning the Watch, even leaving in the middle of the night, only to be chased down by Samwell and his friends, who convinced him to return. Jon then accompanied Lord Commander Mormont and a host of rangers traveling north to investigate rumors of strange occurrences, such as White Walker sightings and a great wildling army forming under a king beyond the wall. When they arrived at the Fist of the First Men, Ghost discovered a number of dragon glass daggers, alongside a war horn wrapped in an old Night's Watch cloak. Jon distributed the weapons amongst the men before leaving with Qhorin Halfhand on a scouting mission to confirm the location of wildlings. During the journey, they encountered a group of the enemy, killing all save a girl named Ygritte, who Jon spared. During her captivity, she told him the story of Bale the Bard, a wildling of legend who snuck into Winterfell and impregnated the Lord's daughter. And so if the story is true, it means the Stark line had some wildling blood. When Jon was ordered to kill her, he instead let her go, and so Ygritte mentions that Mance Rayder, the king beyond the wall, would accept Jon if he ever decides to leave the Watch. This is later put to the test when the brothers are attacked by a group of wildlings on their way back to the camp, losing all but Qhorin Halfhand and Jon Snow, who were captured. The man Stone Snake also managed to survive the attack, climbing up a treacherous mountain into areas no one was willing to follow. Qhorin ordered Jon to feign defection and then return to Castle Black whenever possible, and even allowed Jon to kill him in order to prove his loyalty to the wildlings. After spending time with Mance Rayder, he became impressed by the king beyond the wall and fell in love with Ygritte, breaking his vow of chastity. He then joined a party of warriors sent to scale the wall in order to attack Castle Black from the other side. However, when they neared Queen's Crown, they were attacked by the direwolf Summer, creating a distraction Jon used as an opportunity to abandon them and return to Castle Black. However, he was struck in the leg by an arrow as he departed and barely survived the journey back. Once Jon Snow arrived at Castle Black, he told all he'd learned to Donal Noy, who'd taken command of the Watch after an undead army wiped out much of their forces beyond the wall, and a mutiny at Craster's Keep, which left Jeor Mormont and many others dead. Jon then learned that Bran and Rickon Stark had been killed by the traitor Theon Greyjoy in Winterfell, and while Theon had actually killed 2 other boys, Jon believed his brothers were dead. Devastated, Jon had no choice but to continue on, helping his people defend the wall from wildling attack. Jon was even left in command of their forces when Donal Noy led a party to defend the gate, sacrificing themselves to kill the giant Magmar Tun Do Weg. The Night's Watch emerged victorious in the Battle of Castle Black, but at a cost of many lives, including Ygritte, who died in Jon's arms. Yet despite all of Jon Snow's accomplishments, most of his allies in the Watch were now dead. And so when Alliser Thorne returned from his trip south with Janos Slynt and a number of recruits, they had Jon arrested, claiming he'd betrayed them by joining the Wildlings and killing Qhorin Halfhand. However, given Jon's popularity, with even Maester Aemon speaking on his behalf, execution was not an option. So after some time in an ice cell, Jon was sent on a suicide mission beyond the wall to prove his loyalty, ordered to call a meeting with the Wildlings and assassinate Mance Rayder. During their conversation, Mance offered to give the Watch the legendary Horn of Winter, which he claimed had the power to destroy the Wall in exchange for allowing them passage into the south to escape the White Walkers. While they were speaking, King Stannis Baratheon arrived in the north. Following his defeat at the Battle of the Blackwater, he now focused his attention on the north, hoping to gain legitimacy and a base of power by saving the Night's Watch from an invading wildling army. The undisciplined wildling warriors quickly broke when faced with an organized cavalry force, and so Mance was arrested while Jon Snow returned to Castle Black and was given an offer by Stannis. In exchange for bending the knee to the one true king of Westeros, Jon would be named a legitimate son of Eddard Stark and given the lordship of Winterfell when they took it back from the Boltons. Jon was greatly tempted by this offer, but ultimately refused to abandon his vows and stayed at the Wall. Further, thanks to the political maneuvering of Samwell Tarly, Jon Snow was elected 998th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, chosen as a compromise candidate by rival factions. Although Lord Commander Snow was grateful to Stannis for his help, allowing him to remain at the Wall for a time to house his men, Jon refused to commit fully to Stannis, claiming that the Night's Watch must continue to remain neutral in the wars of the South. He does, however, offer some personal advice, telling Stannis to seek support amongst the mountain clans of the north, who had a great respect for Eddard Stark and would be honored by a visit from a king. Fearing the plans of the king's Red Priestess Melisandre, Jon sent all those with king's blood away, with Maester Aemon and Mance Rayder's newborn baby traveling south to Old Town, alongside Samwell Tarly and the wildling girl Gilly. Jon then worked with Melisandre to hide the identity of Mance Rayder, who they sent on a secret mission south to rescue Arya Stark, who was rumored to be at Winterfell. However, in truth, the girl was Jane Poole, an old friend of Sansa, who was posing as Arya. In order to keep this secret, they burned the wildling Rattleshirt while he was glamored to look like Mance Rayder. In the south, rumors about Jon Snow were making their way to the capital. Before the death of Robb Stark at the Red Wedding, he named Jon his heir, but having been killed soon after, few ever learned of this decision. In King's Landing, Cersei Lannister and her people devised a plan to send 100 infiltrators to the north to assassinate Jon Snow, but her plans fell apart before she could even begin. In the north, Jon took bold actions to prepare for winter and the coming war. He recruited wildlings into the Watch, appointing some to positions of authority, began repairs on ruined castles, sending men to man the wall in as many areas as possible, organized supply routes, negotiated a loan with the Iron Bank, and sent a party to Hardhome to gather the remaining wildlings and bring as many as possible to the Wall. Though many of these actions were wise and forward-thinking, the men of the Watch grew uneasy with his leadership and acceptance of the wildlings. And while some remained loyal, many began to question his decisions. When Janos Slynt refused an order, Jon Snow executed him personally, remembering his father's words that the man who passes the sentence must swing the sword. Later, when Lady Alyce Karstark came to the Wall seeking refuge from a forced marriage to her uncle, Jon arranged a marriage to Sigorn, Magnar of the Fen, creating a new noble family in House Then. However, everything fell apart when Jon received a letter claiming to be from Ramsay Bolton, stating that Stannis was defeated and Mance Rayder was dead. He then demanded Jon's fealty while also insulting him and calling him a bastard. Although the authorship of the letter was not verified, Jon Snow was convinced he must act, declaring to all that he would leave the Watch with a volunteer army of brothers and free folk to march against the Boltons and retake Winterfell. This, however, was a clear violation of their vows, leaving many to turn against their Lord Commander. Later that night, Jon heard screaming and ran to see the giant, One Weg Wundar One, killing Sir Patrick of King's Mountain, seeing the star of his sigil hanging above, covered in blood. Bowen Marsh, who had been Jon's friend and advisor, then led a group of brothers to use this distraction to their advantage, whispering for the watch as they stabbed the Lord Commander with their daggers. Left to die in a pool of his own blood, Jon's last word before losing consciousness was "Ghost," in reference to his direwolf. A special thanks to all those who contribute to Civilization X, like Soul Guide Medical, Amethyst Honeywine, and Jake the Red Fury. If you would like to help Civilization X, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like and subscribe, and click on the links to see more.